they had drawn up this chart where there was a box where you could stamp smiley faces because of good behavior.
We were like, oh, this is the answer to everything.
This concept is so great, and I think this is going to work for us.
So we had a sticker chart, we shoved it on the fridge.
And yeah, it kind of worked.
Yeah, if you were standing next to the fridge all day, which we weren't. So we had these app guys at the time, and we were at work one day, and I was like, guys, I need this sticker chart on my phone so that when I'm in the car on the way home, I can give them positive recognition in the moment and go from there.
So let's start back when we first had children. We were super young. You were 17?
Well,
That's when we got engaged. Okay, so you were 19
when we got married.
When we got married. So let's just get this. Look, I'm
engaged
not,
at 17.
I'm doing the normal husband thing where you totally forget all the dates. It's like it was year 2000. We got married.
Yes, I was 19. We got married,
and so we were married, and then
we got pregnant 6 months later.
6 months after we were married.
4 kids in 5 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Super young parents. And then when our youngest was 3.5, we decided to leave everything and everyone we knew and move countries.
As you do.
As you do.
So for 4 young children, new country, no support.
Yeah.
And I had a job where I had to fly regularly, internationally. I was gone every, probably 6 weeks. I'd be away for a good 10 days. Sometimes I'll be on the other side of the world in another time zone, like South Africa or somewhere like that. And you'd be at home with the 4 kids.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how hard that was.
Well, it was great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. We've got wonderful memories, but it was chaos most of the time. Let's be clear.
Yeah. But I wonder, though, like, I think most families have hard, like they've got their hard. Like for us, I think that was also an exciting time for us because there was so much going on, but we were building a family. We were living in a new country. We're experiencing new things together. So let's just go forward a little bit more because those were like the golden moments when we were here. And so prior to that, I'll frame this as well. You were a full-time mum, which we had the privilege of that, and I would say that really clearly. That's a choice we made, and it was a hard choice at times.
Oh, there was a lot of sacrifice. You say it was a privilege, and it is, but there was a lot of sacrifice for me to be at home.
I mean, I remember strapping 2 small children into a car, and having to run around delivering newspapers early in the morning just so we could afford eggs and a couple coffees.
Yep. That's how we paid for our once-a-week date night.
Yeah.
Or date breakfast.
But that's because we chose for you not to work. Those were the times where, we because of those choices we made to be, to do the traditional family. And today families aren't quite like that. So and a lot of families, both parents need to work. So we were privileged from that point of view that we could do that. So moving forward, so we're living in a new country, the kids are growing and they're going through their different stages, and I'm traveling, you're parenting on your own. And then we launched the business.
Yeah. Well, you finished up with the Denmark company that you were doing all the travel with. They pulled everything back to Denmark, and we were like, what do we do? Because that was our plan. That's what allowed us to move countries. And they said, no, we're pulling it all back to Denmark. And so we had some choices to make. Did you go back out and find a job, or did you do what had always been on your heart and what you're brilliant at, and that is to be an entrepreneur? And we decided at that point to start our first company, which was a digital agency.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that night when we were sitting at the local hamburger place with some friends and just in this moment of, where do we go? What do we do? And then recognizing an opportunity for us to build a business. And so we then launched into that mode of doing the crazy thing, which is to build a company with no steady income, and again, no support. Our
Mhm.
parents were in different countries. Your parents weren't even together at that point, and and my parents were getting older, and it
Well,
was
your
hard.
parents were great. They were a good support, but they weren't
They
here. They
weren't
weren't
here.
they weren't the traditional come around and help babysit the kids. We didn't have babysitters
Well,
for the
they were
longest
when we were
time,
in New
but
Zealand.
not when we were in Australia.
No,
And look, it was a different kind of challenge. I mean, you were back in that you weren't traveling all the time, but you still weren't present because you were up all hours trying to build this new business.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were doing the crazy thing that I think some people choose. You have to choose to do that,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know. You and I are kind of, I don't know. We're either super stubborn or we just we seem to be the people who always do the hard thing.
Yes, well, not the
And
hard, but we don't mind a little bit of discomfort. And look, I always say to my kids now, as young adults, that to get what other people don't have, you've got to be willing to do what other people won't do. Never at the expense of your mental health, but almost always at the expense of your own comfort.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I would say we made it work,
Yep.
and
We did.
that was tough because I remember when we decided to do that, our kids were, again, this sounds so privileged, but we had our children in a private school,
Hmm.
because that's what my job was affording us to be able to do. And
Yeah, well, we could afford that, but not much else.
no, I
You keep
know,
using the word privilege, and it is, don't get me wrong, but it was
again, choice.
It was choice and there was sacrifices made in other areas to be able to send them to that school. But then when we decided to start that first business, we had to actually pull them out of the private school because we couldn't afford it for a time.
Mm,
And at that point, they came and I homeschooled them, or it was more like
just as
distance
Ed.
education. So they had their own curriculum that they were working to, or they were meant to be working to. But really, it was just days at the beach surfing and probably not. Look, I was not born to be a teacher, let's make that clear. But it was a fun season. It was a different season and it was just a different kind of chaos at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Still fun. And then, so we were building this digital agency. I was at home with the kids, and then you asked me to step back in part time into the company. So we put the kids back in school, and we had a couple of app guys working for us at the time, building apps for one of our big clients. And my problem then, stepping from days at the beach, long days at the beach, surfing, kind of following a loose curriculum at home, if and when we felt like it, to then going back into a very structured school environment, us having to get up in the morning, get going, find school uniform, find shoes. And we are not the most organized family
yeah.
at times. It's a lot of fun, but
Well, we've got a house full of now diagnosed ADHD people.
hmm
Like back then, we didn't even know.
no clue.
Like, as in some ways, going back then, ADHD wasn't really a thing that was really spoken about. You always heard about these kids that were on the spectrum and they're on Ritalin and they're on all of these other meds and things like that. And we were like, probably back then, we were probably quite judgmental of that
Yeah, a
because the
little.
thing is that we thought it was, you know, a thing that only hyperactive kids had.
Yeah, it was the kids that got in
Yeah.
trouble at school. And look, we didn't understand it then like we do
Yeah.
now. And I think in general, there's a lot more understanding and information about it now. But so that's where we
Yeah.
were at.
But that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to say. It's like in a household which was quite chaotic because, as you know, disorganization, there was stuff going on all the time. I was working a lot, kids homeschooling, you stepping back into work. And but I'll just sort of bring it to a point where we were at a friend's house and we were looking at a pin board that they had on their wall in their house.
Mm.
And then there was this chart that said it was basically the thumbs up, thumbs down
I
chart.
think it was a smiley frowny face,
Smiley
but
frownies, that's
same
right.
concept.
Smiley,
It
the
was a
same
behavior
thing.
chart.
But it
Yeah.
was basically they had drawn up this chart where there was a box that basically was where you could stamp basically smiley faces because of good behavior, and at the end of the week they would count up all of those smiley faces and
It's something from a prize
they
box
would go
or,
towards something. And I
yeah.
think they actually had, like, it was for money in their house, pocket money. But and they had to do their jobs and their chores, and it was all listed out on this chart, and they got points for these things.
Yeah.
And we
We were like, oh, this is the answer to
this
everything.
concept is so great, and I think this is going to work for us.
Yeah. So
And
we had a sticker chart. We
so we
shoved it on the fridge.
we drew it up and we did it the same as them,
Hmm.
and yeah, it kind of worked.
Yeah. If
And
you were standing next to the fridge all day, which we weren't, we had 4 children. Back at school, we had one stepping into full-time dance. We had one that was basketball mad. We were all over the shop all of the time, and it just never quite stuck because it wasn't with us all the time.
no, I know, but I mean, that's also the other thing. When you're busy, you also forget, and it's one of those things. But it was the kids that would remind us.
Yeah, but they would also remind us, and sometimes they weren't necessarily, I don't want to uncover my children now, but it's like,
No, they're
they'd be like,
sneaky.
remember how you gave me a thumbs up or a smiley face? And I'd be like, did I actually really?
Yeah,
And there was like this, I don't know, consistency was hard with it.
yeah,
So we had these app guys at the time, and we were at work one day, and I was like, guys, I need this on my phone. I need this sticker chart, this behavior chart on my phone, so that when I'm in the car on the way home and something happens, Noah, bites Chloe, or no, he probably wouldn't have done that. Noah's great. But, um, then I can react in the moment, or if someone does something brilliant, I can give them positive
yeah.
recognition in the moment and
That
go
just
from there.
it reminds me of those times where our way of dealing with behavior in the car on long trips with a bag of lollies in the
Yeah.
car, and essentially anytime something was not going right in the car, we'd take the lollies and we'd chuck them out the
Yeah. They
window.
weren't wrapped. Just
No, no, they were like gummies, so
they were like,
they were biodegradable. They weren't gonna like stay on the side of
yeah.
the road forever.
We'd be
But
driving to Sydney, and it was like, here's a big bag of lollies, and you guys get whatever's left in the bag at the end of the trip. But every time you fight, or you're rude, or
out the window, yeah.
one of them would go out the window, and
So
they didn't like that.
that's
We
punitive.
had some interesting parenting
Yeah,
techniques.
but I mean, but the
Questionable.
thing is that was our questionable parenting. But again, that's the whole point of this podcast, is that there is other parents who are like us, and they do things like this. I remember those Shopkins going out the window once,
Yeah,
but we
they
had to go
were.
pick them
Well,
up
we did.
afterwards because we knew that that wasn't the right thing to
Hmm.
do. But
So we tried it all. So anyway, the app guys.
yeah,
Let's let
okay, let's bring it back.
let
So we
So the
had
app guys built us this app.
mm,
It was based on a very simple positive behavior, you get a thumbs up, negative behavior, you get a thumbs down.
yeah,
And they had a goal or a reward that they were working towards, like extra screen, like 10-minute screen time, or ice cream for dessert, or something that was on the phone, and they would log the thumbs against this goal
yeah.
or reward.
It was really simple in the first instance,
It was simple, but it
but we
worked.
only built it for us.
Yeah.
Like this is one of the things that I think everyone thinks that this app was something that we're these God went on a mission to build an app and
Make
make money
money.
off it
Yeah.
and put it on the app store and this, but realistically it was built out of a necessity, and it was built out of a need because we were trying to solve a problem we had.
Yeah.
But
And it
the f-
did.
but the
It
funny
worked
thing
really
is
well.
though is that it solved our problem, but it also solves a lot of other people's problems as well.
Well, as our friends and family kind of saw it working so well for our family, because we were talking about it to them, and their kids would see our kids using it and getting these thumbs up, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of sound, a lot of noise, big dopamine hits,
Mm,
and some stubborn behaviors was trying to change. And I mean, ours as well as theirs, right?
yeah.
Like, yelling at our kids probably more than we wanted to, or not following through or being consistent. Those habits that we'd kind of built as parents started to change as well as we were using the app.
Yeah, because it kind of made you pause and think about things. And, because you always tell your kids, uh, take a breath and before you say what you want to say,
Hmm.
like breathe. But so the thing is with the app, we had ways to deal with uh, stressful moments because essentially it meant that it wasn't a moment of like escalation. It
Hmm.
was a moment of thumbs down, and that
It
was
was a
it.
very
So
simple way of recognition, both positive and
positive
negative.
and negative. So
Yeah.
it's more. It was to discourage certain behaviors, and it started to change
Mm.
the way that the family was.
The whole dynamic changed
Yeah,
quite quickly. And so, as our friends and family saw that, they started saying, can we have the app? And that meant that we had to put it up on the App Store.
Yeah. So put it on the App Store and then people started downloading it. So that's where Thumsters started.
Yeah,
But as time went by, um, and we've started building this thing, and we actually realized that what we were building had a real impact on families worldwide, and like literally now it's touched tens and tens of thousands of families. I think
mhm,
it's over 100,000 families now that have had the app on their phone for a period of time. You know, this is the thing, is that Thumbsters, for some families, it's an all the time thing. For others, it's for short periods of time based on what's going on in their family. But we know that it's had an impact. And we
yeah,
get these stories all the time in our reviews. People just saying that it's changed their family dynamics. And so for us, we now have a real purpose behind
yeah,
what it is. But the other thing we've also learnt while running this and building this is we've learned so much about what we didn't know when we built it about why it works.
yeah, we did a deep dive into the science.
So we actually started to look into the psychology behind it,
Yeah.
the motivation behind it, and just why why did it work so well? And
Well, we started getting a lot of emails as well from child psychologists and behavior therapists that would be like, this is amazing. We're using it with our families. And so that made us go, okay, well, actually, this is a thing. It's the gold standard in behavior modification and parenting. And so how can we build it out to be very intentional in helping other families?
but we've started talking about how the apps helped other people, but let's like bring it back and talk about how it affected us and our
Yeah.
family.
Well, I think ultimately the best way to sum it up is I was talking to Hannah, our eldest daughter, just 21 now, yesterday in the car. And I said to her, what is one part of parenting you feel like we got right? And she said, I was never scared through those harder teenage years after they've been using the app when they were younger. I was never scared to tell you anything. Like I knew I could tell you anything and I wouldn't get in trouble. Not that we didn't ever have to parent them through some pretty sticky stuff. We did. But I think what the app did was really improve our connection as a family and our communication as a family
I'd
because,
agree.
as you said before, it allowed us to stop reacting and start responding. And we carried that right through their teenage years. And we've been through some stuff, which I'm sure will come out in future podcasts. Um, but it definitely helped us
Yeah.
to intentionally choose to respond and not react and to communicate a whole lot better.
So for me, it was my interactions with Noah,
Hmm.
our youngest son, because he was quite full on. He was full of energy. He would sometimes he knew how to like push your buttons. And I think what it enabled me to do is exactly what you're talking about, was just to recognize behavior in the moment in a different way rather than it turning into something that it didn't need to be.
Yeah.
And so what for me it did is it reconnected me with him on a different level.
Yeah.
And without even realizing it, it just changed the dynamic of the conversation and we were able to communicate in a different way.
Well, I think it rubbed you up the wrong way because you were so similar as people.
Exactly.
And it allowed you to also, with the positive interactions, be intentional about catching them.
Yeah.
And then that changed the dynamic because instead of just like, oh, you're,
But that
getting
still goes
annoyed.
on. It still goes on now because if you think about it, it's like as adults now, it's about that praise and the positive affirmations and the reinforcement. That's what Thumbsters did for us back then. Even if it was like a little bit mechanical and it was about us actually taking the action, the thing is that we were doing that, and it meant that we were able to show them that we were actually recognizing
Mm,
what was going on in the moment, the positive behavior,
yeah.
building that aspect, and then also just like recognizing when things needed to be improved. But it was also attached to goals and rewards and things, so it's like everyone's
Hmm.
motivated to do different things, and we'll talk about that later on. But um yeah, I think that's probably the biggest impact for me,
Yeah.
with Thumbsys is just connection.
Yeah.
It brought communication and connection back into the family in
I
a
do.
different way.
And a bit more calm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today on the Raising Humans project. We'd love it if you'd leave a comment below. Tell us what you want to hear about and who you want to hear from.
Yeah. Who are the top parenting voices in the world today? Let us know.
Yeah, because we're running out of people to talk to.
We're not running out of people to talk to. Look, if you can please like, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be notified of future episodes, and we will see you next week. Well, I'll see you at home because we parent together.
Please tell your mates because we want people to hear this.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.